Hi and welcome back. You with Terry from Bonsai Tree. Today I'm going to be doing some autumn work on this Korean black pine, which is in a Niyagari style. If you find the following content helpful, then you can thank me by clicking the thanks button just below the video. I originally imported this tree from Japan from a friend of mine, Koji Hiramatsu. During the growing season after the tree was imported, I decided that the growth was strong enough to decandle the tree. If I look at the summer needle development, which is actually quite stunted, it suggests to me that the decandling was either done too late in the season, or alternatively that the tree was not adequately fertilized prior to decandling, or potentially that the tree just didn't have sufficient reserves. For this work, you're going to need a pair of tweezers, preferably pine tweezers, as well as a sharp pair of trimming scissors. If you previously used the tweezers, you'd notice that there would be a buildup of resin in the teeth, so we need to clean that out first. I find that using a steel brush is perfect for the job. Before sharpening, you need to remove the residue or the sap buildup from the blades. Lubricate the blades with an oil, preferably not synthetic oil, and then use the cremate block to essentially erase the sap that has built up on the blades. If you're using a diamond sharpening file such as the DMT, then lubricate the file first, and then just a few strokes of the file on the scissors should be sufficient to bring the edge back. The timing of this work is autumn. Needle plucking, bud selection, and checking for wire bite will be the focus of today's work. When needle plucking, we'll be focusing on removing old needles that are yellowing and dying. However, to achieve a more even needle length and equal development over the tree, we also need to remove more or less needles depending on the zone of the tree. As a result of decandling, you may have stimulated backbudding on the tree, which is now developed into new shoots. The central shoot in this particular case can be removed so that we are left with two remaining shoots or buds that we can develop further. When you do encounter situations like this, it's best to keep the two portions of growth that are the most similar in energy or strength. In this example, you have a bud growing directly up, and so it's preferable to remove that one and keep those that are laying horizontal. Sometimes the shoots that you decide to keep are not ideally orientated, but you can resolve that by twisting the branch so that they lay at a better angle using the wire that's already on the branches. The action of plucking the needles should be one similar to that of the pecking of a chicken, rather than individually grabbing needles and throwing them. When you encounter buds like this, it's important to be very careful around them, because this is a very important portion of growth for the future of this branch. In fact, partially why we are needle plucking now is to allow more sun and air flow to encourage the growth of these buds. When removing needles, remove the oldest and the dying needles first, and then start to work towards the tip, removing needles evenly around the shoot. If the tree was previously wired, you should now be on the lookout for wire bite as well. On the left-hand side of this example, that wire bite is about as far as I would allow it to go, but on the right-hand side, there is no wire bite, so that wire should remain on for longer. When you do encounter wire bite, carefully unwind the wire using a pair of pliers while holding the branch slit quite firmly in your other hand. It's quite important that you only remove the wire that is causing wire bite and allowing the rest of the wire to remain. Removing wire from a wired conifer prematurely will result in the branches most likely returning back to their original positions. If I have unwound a portion of wire, rather than risk it damaging adjacent branches, I prefer to cut it shorter and then continue using the gin pliers to unwind the wire further. When I did the decandling in early summer, there were certain buds that were not strong enough to be decandled, and those ones were left alone. If you find that the needles of these buds which were not decandled are much longer than the surrounding needles, I like to go back in and cut those a bit shorter. Where there are weaker buds laying on the interior of the tree that are generally shaded out by branches above them, you want to leave more needles on those to allow them to become even stronger. It's always advisable to start this work at the top of the tree in the apex and then work to the lowest branches. In that way, when you finish the work, the entire tree is pretty much clean or devoid of loose needles. If you find more substantial growth that is, you've decided it's not contributing to the structure anymore, or you want to remove it, now in autumn is also a good time to do that. When you finish needle plucking, just go through the tree and find any loose needles that are laying about and remove those. You'll often find that after a few growing seasons, the top layer of growing media is now full of finer feeder roots and has started to impede oxygen penetration and water drainage through the pot. And so I'm removing the top few centimeters of the soil and going to be replacing that with fresh growing medium. You can then tamp that media down just to compact it slightly. If you found that content helpful and you'd like to thank me for it, please do so now by clicking the thanks button just below the video. Fertilizing in autumn is a very important step to preparing this tree for spring, and so the tree will now go back out into the sun and fresh fertilizer will be placed onto the soil, probably the last dose of fertilizer for the season.